Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so Tim Dillon has been complaining about the Trump administration lately, saying this isn't what he voted for, this isn't what he wanted, turning against the Trump administration a little bit, trying to carve out a niche where he can still maintain the sort of right populist audience that he has built up, while also making a critique of Trump that feels honest to him. He feels like he can't go along with what Trump is doing right now, or feels like the winds are blowing in the other direction. Depends on how you look at it. Because really, MAGA is fully behind Trump in this war. So if he was only wanting to pander to MAGA, he would be going that route. So instead, he's trying to carve out a different route where he can criticize the war, but still appeal to the same audience that he appeals to. And I pointed out a couple weeks ago that it seems like he's realizing this isn't as fun as he thought it was, or, you know, the Trump thing fades eventually, and you realize all you're stuck with is like really horrific policy. And I think the fog is really clearing like that for some people when it comes to Trump too. So what's interesting about this is he's kind of talking about the people still supporting Trump, and he's projecting actually what is more so the mindset of people in his demographic, his group of people, more so than the MAGA base. So he's talking about a rally here with Trump voters at it, and kind of, in my opinion, projecting his own mindset onto the video that he's seeing. So let's watch that real quick. It starts with him talking about the war and then goes into him talking about MAGA and the American people more generally.
I still think we've won, and I think people should communicate to Donald Trump how much we've won, how glorious this victory has been for all of us, how exciting it's been to see this, how grateful we are for this, and that we should now just go home and think about it as a great, glorious memory of the past. Whatever this guy needs to hear to get him out of this war, tell him. Tell him that. Whatever this dude needs to hear so that he can get us the fuck out of there. But the common person here also is unfortunately, really sadly culpable in a lot of this. You know, the people that are cheering on this war in Iran have no fucking clue why we're there. They don't care. They're just happy to see violence and chaos. And those are the people who are culpable for what this country is going to get. Make no mistake, we're going to get it. What this country is getting, those are the people who deserve it. The suburban American has a bloodlust that is absolutely insatiable. Nothing is enough for these people. Nothing is enough. We're becoming a sexless country. We're a joyless country. Our only joy is in exporting violence and sitting back and watching it. They don't care because many parts of this country are a moral black hole. They are a moral black hole where there is no morality. They're amoral. You say, well, maybe they have bad morals. No. They have no morals. They're a black hole. Those are the people that are cheering on what's happening right now in Iran. And that's the face of people that are in too deep. That's not the face of people that are having a great time. That's not the face of people that are really excited about the direction of the country. This is the face of people that kind of got bamboozled, and they're still showing up to the rally, and then he's bringing out Jake Paul. A lot of them are really not. It's not exciting anymore. It's not fun. You've been at a party too long. You know, I have friends that have been at the party too long here with him, And the thing about Trump's entire thing is the party's never about you. You know, that's where we're at now in the MAGA cult movement. You still have the 5D chess QAnon people who are permanently schizophrenic. There's nothing to be done for them. You have people like I know, friends of mine who like live in Florida and are just completely out of it and truly are kind of moral, again, a black hole. You know, they just don't care what he does. They just like him and they're not paying attention. They're not paying close attention. And, you know, and then you have, you know, some of these people that are standing here behind him, you can really tell by their face that they have been at the party for too long and it's not fun. You know, a lot of these people go back and work at a rest stop and it's tough because I know it's really, really hard to admit you got God. It's really difficult to admit that. Almost no one can admit. It's very hard to admit you've been taken advantage of by someone that you respected, by someone that you liked and respected. This is actually a very difficult thing to do. It's easy to say you got scammed by some stranger, but someone that you trusted, respected, liked, and a lot of these people here, you know, in the back of their head, they can't admit it to themselves yet, but they feel like they've been taken advantage of. This is not about them anymore. It's dawned on them. They go, this is not really about us.
Yeah, so he's saying, you know, a lot of these MAGA people got duped. They got tricked. It's hard to admit when you got duped, when you got bamboozled. And that's true. I think that's true for the MAGA base. I think that's what a lot of them experience in general. Many of them are super locked into it, but they've still experienced some version of that self-doubt or something like that. I also think that's true in general. I think most people have trouble admitting when they were wrong and would rather kind of just not address it and might change their mind sort of in their own space and never really acknowledge that something changed their mind. And that's why I think that it's worth making arguments to people. It's worth trying to change people's mind, even if they don't change their mind on the spot, because usually people kind of do it anyway. It's good to plant the seed in their mind. But it's funny to me that he's saying, well, it's hard for these people to admit that they got bamboozled, because I don't know. I mean, I cover this stuff pretty closely. I've kept an eye on what Tim Dillon has been saying. Has he ever admitted that he got bamboozled, that he got tricked by Trump? I mean, I know that he has turned against them. And he has said, this isn't what I voted for. And if I had thought it was going to go like this, I don't think he has gone as far as Dave Smith as to say that Kamala Harris wouldn't have been as bad as this, which is a major step for some of these conservatives to make. But he has implied that this is like not what he voted for. But there's a little bit of a difference between saying that, saying like, what's going on here? And saying, I was tricked into endorsing these people because I thought they would do X, Y, and Z. So Tim Dillon hasn't really said that. So it's just weird that he's projecting that onto other people, saying they're having trouble admitting they got duped, because those people standing behind Trump at that rally, those are the ones who are behind him 100%. And Tim Dillon doesn't realize it, but he's basically just Jon Stewart now. He's basically just gesturing at a screen of Trump acting ridiculous and saying, what's up with this? That's not the same as what you were saying. Let's roll the clip from a week ago. What's going on? Isn't this bizarre? Everyone, isn't it bizarre that Trump is bringing up Jake Paul? What's going on with that? That's just Jon Stewart. And the reason I say that is because Jon Stewart's form of commentary, pointing out the hypocrisy, the outrage, and this sort of expressive disbelief about the behavior of those in power, it was completely useless, ineffectual. It was not an effective form of commentary that stopped politicians and public figures from behaving that way. In fact, it got worse. It got much worse because people, you could argue, got overexposed to it to the point where we let figures like Trump into our public consciousness and just let him scam his way through to the point where it seems like he'll never go away. And what Tim Dillon doesn't realize is that the train has moved on without him. And so he wanted to get off the train, and that's cool. And maybe he thought some people would get off the train with him, and maybe a couple did. But the train has moved on. And you could tell from what he said at the beginning there that he still thinks he kind of has their ear a little bit. And maybe he does. But the truth is, what you get when you vote for Trump is someone who behaves this way, someone who behaves like a billionaire, like the CEO of a company. That's what you guys said you wanted from a president. That was the argument for Trump. And so what that means is that he's not accountable to anybody. The only thing he's accountable to is the sort of like return on investment, the return on this gamble. So he's gambling everything, the stability of the entire world, the economy, things that Tim Dillon cares about, because he thinks that the return on the investment will be good based on whatever his metric is for that. I don't know, crypto or whatever parts of the economy have to be wiped out in order for there to be some gains somewhere else. Whatever he thinks is going to happen or thought was going to happen. It's not really based on accountability to like the working people, the taxpayers. He doesn't give a fuck about them and never really had any reason to. And that's what you promoted to people, is like specifically that kind of politics. That's what Republicans believe in. So that's really where the scam is. And Tim Dillon is saying that all that matters to these people is owning the libs and they're a moral black hole. And I want to explore that for a second, the moral black hole comment. Because I agree with him. I think that we all feel some version of that, and it's a little existential. I think I like to take people on good faith a little bit more than is deserved. Obviously, he's being exaggerative, but he's pointing to something very specific. He's saying like the suburbs. He says people I know in Florida who are just these moral black holes. So that's an interesting statement. Seems rather specific, like he's talking about specific conversations he's had. Who knows if that's comedians or somebody else, incredibly wealthy people. I don't know. But he's saying that specifically that part of the country bears the blame for this. So not him with the platform who told many, many people that Trump was more normal than the liberal media was telling them he is. But the general voting base, the people now that support Iran, going to war in Iran, those are the ones who deserve what America has coming. And kind of don't worry too much about the people that helped put Trump in power in the first place. Don't worry about them. That's not really the people who are responsible for this. The ones who are responsible is the ones that I can target right now as seeming particularly morally empty and repugnant. Here's the question. If someone is amoral as opposed to having bad morals, how do you detect that? How do you detect someone who is amoral? Well, going along with Trump in the first place is a good indicator. Because Trump, I think part of the deal is that he is amoral. He's a grifter. Everybody knows it. He's done a million terrible fucking things. Nobody really cares because of this continual personality that he can sell to people. Something that Tim Dillon can now see through because he realizes that Trump is not what he told people he was going to be. And so in this metaphor, this extended metaphor of being at the party too long and it's not fun anymore, he's pretty clearly telegraphing his feelings through this sort of projection, which is an entertaining way to do it. But the main important thing to get across here is that the MAGA base is not turning on him over this. And I would like that to be true. We'll see if that becomes true. But the reality is that people like Tim Dillon and Dave Smith, people who aligned with Trump and are now opposed to this war, you aligned yourself with a pro-war entity, and you can now see that in MAGA. You were completely wrong, not just about the guy, but about this movement, and there was plenty of evidence behind that you could have looked into. But the truth is, you just liked the rhetoric and the feeling of Trump, and you went with that. So that's amorality. You're not looking at any of the set of facts, any of the political history, none of that. You're just going with what feels good to you. And the thing is, despite the fact that the bottom has kind of fallen out underneath the reputation of Democrats, they don't really seem to stand for anything anymore. They're terrible on the political stage. They're self-conscious about every single thing they do. So they just come off weak at every turn. They're not doing a great job opposing this war, but they're trying to figure out how to use it rhetorically against Trump. Not doing a good job at that either. But here's the thing about Democrats in general and leaning to the left in general, as opposed to leaning to the right, which for some reason Tim Dillon decided to do. Since 2020, a lot of people in our society, for one reason or another, have decided to lean to the right, and that is why voting for Republicans became more of a normal idea to people. And the argument against that, and the argument to move more left as a country, is that on the left in general, even most Democrats, you believe in things like human rights. And that is what is really going to prevent something like this happening in the first place, or at least place some reins on it. In Trump and the Republican Party, what you get is an amorality. They do not believe in the sovereignty or the human rights of really anybody, definitely Venezuelans, Cubans, or Iranians. They do not believe that it's wrong to blow those people up and kill them. Children, citizens, whoever. Blow them up and kill them, because that is the way to make a point and assert our dominance. And that is the part that every single one of these dudes knew they were voting for. That's what they liked about Trump, period. Because there's no other thing about him that appeals. If you don't like that, if you don't like that he tramples over human rights in any instance that he can, then there's really not much to like about the guy. So really it's just a matter of, as Tim Dillon said, it's not your party anymore. You thought that he was going to be trampling people's rights in favor of you, and to Tim Dillon's credit, Trump hasn't come for him yet. This isn't directly affecting him yet. I think he's starting to get the sense that it could, but he's speaking out before it gets to that point, even though it might be hurting his portfolio. Still, credit to him for that. But the truth is that you voted for the leopard eating people's faces party. I don't know really what you expected. And Democrats are not much better. And that's something I've spoken about recently, that I think that a big part of this is the pressures on the world stage in general, specifically by Israel. And so any U.S. president would have been up against this because Israel wanted to make this move on Iran. And Antony Blinken, who was one of the worst apologists and committers of the genocide in Biden's administration, has come out to say that Israel wanted to bomb Iran during Biden's administration and Biden said no, or they didn't go along with it, so it didn't happen. So that's a small, kind of unreliable piece of evidence that Kamala Harris, given that she made no difference between herself and Biden on the issue of Israel, would have maybe done the same thing and not allowed this strike to happen. But we know that Israel would have upped the pressure to do it through some means, and we do not know how Kamala Harris would have stood up to that pressure. And we're seeing that Trump absolutely was compromised to that pressure from the beginning. He never put up any resistance whatsoever, even though he told people he would not do things like this. And so the obvious answer to this is, if you believe in human rights and you want to reaffirm human rights, and you do not want America to be constantly violating the human rights of people abroad and in this country, then you should lean politically in a direction that tends to believe in human rights. And Democrats, what needs to happen is a complete overhaul, which there is an opportunity for right now. There are candidates like Kat Abu-Ghazaleh, who is going to be up for the primary today in Illinois. So if you live in her district in Illinois, please get out and vote for Kat Abu-Ghazaleh in that district, because candidates like her, while they are also not perfect and also are going to be up against the pressures of the world stage and the political world in America, candidates like her that are running against the type of war politics that we get from Republicans and Democrats is the way to push back against this type of policy. And there's a lot of liberal politics that people like Tim Dillon don't want to be associated with because that's not popular for their brand right now. But the reality is Tim Dillon is a gay man living in, Beverly Hills in California. And so he's dependent on the type of foundation of reaffirming people's rights that Democrats have built their political brand on. And so there needs to be a new generation of, in my opinion, democratic socialists and people that lean in that direction to reaffirm people's rights, not just on a general equality basis, but an economic equality basis. And the reality is this is what you get when you run too far in the other direction. I get that the language annoys people and stuff, but the truth is that reaffirming people's rights is the only type of politics worth doing, because when you allow grifters and amoral sleazeballs who say they're going to make the country $1 million if you let them into power, this is what they do. They send us to war because they don't care about human lives. And yes, those type of grifters exist on the Democratic side as well, but you're not going to go in that direction if you want to appeal to a bunch of people who love blood and guts and violence. You're going to go to the right, and that's exactly what Tim Dillon did.
Trying to break through and cut through the noise and give something that's actually food for thought. Feels a little bit useless. Hundreds of millions of views on things that are rotting people's brains and reactionary narratives, twisting the news.